And when you think about licks, you think about tasty tone. And when I think about tasty tone, I think about the sponsor of today's video, Dofix. They provided me this, the Michelangelo Overdrive Plus. I'm gonna show you a bunch of licks that I've created due to the inspiration from this very pedal, and then I'm gonna show you how it works, because I go licks first, explanation second. There's a lot to get into regarding the specifications of this pedal, so I encourage you to check the link down below if you're interested in any of the sounds that you're about to hear. Let's get to the licks first, and then I'll explain exactly what this pedal is doing for us. So this little lick takes advantage of the major third in a minor pentatonic context. So we kick things off with the nice fourth, and we're bending up from the major third to the fourth, back down to the major third. That's really sort of establishing the aesthetic and the mood of this lick, because as you'll notice, from the major third. So while we're up here, we have the same exact motif happening. So that's really where the effectiveness comes into play regarding continuing a little story, if you will. So as we ride down the pentatonic ladder, that's really one of my favorite things to do on the guitar, is hit a note, either go from a whole step or a half step below and bend up to that note that I just hit. And it's really meaty when you can get it on the A string or even the E string with that vibrato. And I find it's actually a little bit easier to have good vibrato with a bend like this, because you have such a strong anchor and you're using your middle finger, which is generally your strongest finger. You can get a lot of different types of tone out of this type of bend. So listen to these various tones you can get depending on how your pick attacks the string. Or real smooth round one. That's a sharp one. And then if we switch the pickup, that just opens up a whole new world. So moving on, we come down here, end of this phrase. That is just a tasty little slur, a la Rick Graham or somebody like that, where you bend up, and at the top of that bend, slur as you're coming back down. And then, classic blues ending. Moving on. This one, a la John Mayer or Stevie Ray Vaughan, takes advantage of, again, mixing those minor and major pentatonic sounds with a beautiful little 13 chord ending, and I'll show you that at the end. But first, we have to get these flourishes down, and the way I like to practice these is just one string set at a time, so 3 strings total. These are double stops with rakes, so we are hitting multiple strings at once and raking our pick down and up in this particular lick. I would start with a lick like this, just to get this technique down if you've never tried it before. So this is on the 7th fret, your bar in here, and hammering from the 7th to the 9th fret on the B string, and keeping that 7th fret on the E string consistent. And from this moment, you lift off that middle finger and rake down, mute that G string, and set 9th fret of the D string. And this is really important to articulate the rhythms, because without that it's just a little bit less effective, right? So with this, you can really hear each of those staccato rakes, those muted strings. Think of yourself like a drummer. Bow, digga, digga. It's a triplet rake, so that muted rhythm is a triplet. 1, 2, 3, bam. That is the downbeat there with the bam. So that's the motion, and we're basically going to combine again, hitting that major third. And of course, kind of a traditional blues ending there. The fourth down to the minor third. And this can be a lick that you don't necessarily have to nail note for note. Just the technique, I think, is really cool to learn. And you can do this, you know, in other areas of the neck as well. 2 halves to the whole, and then this chord right here. And as you can see, this is why I chose a lot of clean blend with this, because this is a nice lick to have a lot of clarity, which can get covered up by gain. So we have a lot of a clean blend happening here with the Michelangelo. So this is actually a 9-13 chord. We have our root, flat 7th, major 3rd, 13th, and there's the 9th. Moving along. This is a fun one, because not only are we taking advantage of the tone over here by the bridge, we are activating it a little bit more with the boosted mids, so it's almost balancing out this tinny nature that can happen over near the bridge when you pick there, because if you'll notice here, versus, we can get a lot of different sound just out of the string, and then when you kind of mess with the frequencies with a pedal like this, it can really create something nifty, which is what inspired this lick. So we kick things off with a very Stevie Ray Vaughan-esque beginning to the journey. So every guitar player should know that riff. It typically ends on an E. But instead, we're continuing on up here to the 3rd position of the E minor pentatonic sound. Just right up that little ladder there. And then, as I like to do, I'm hitting the half step below, but bending up to that note. And this is where the mid balance, the mid boost really comes in. I just love the timbre of this note that you get when you're working with these frequencies up near the bridge, but also have this sound. It's almost different every single time I hit it. So that is rather delightful, and we're just bending to an E from the 15th fret, probably the first note that every guitar player plays if they are locked in a gigantic coliseum with a bunch of delay and reverb and a giant Marshall stack. This is the note we play. So if you'll notice here, we have 2 pedals in one, 2 effects in one, if you will, a drive and a boost. So here's our clean sound. So let's talk about these knobs here because there's a lot to examine. The boost obviously controls the decibel level of the boost. It goes up to plus 15 dB. Moving to the gain, this is the overall gain of whatever type of distortion you've dialed in. So I'm going to jump over here because I mentioned type of distortions. There are 3 different types: a germanium, a FET, and a silicone. These are essentially colors of distortion. So this would be the silicone. FET. Germanium. 3 different colors of distortion to choose from. Now, over here we have the preamp, which you can choose to dial in. If you have more preamp, it's going to be a hotter sound. If you have less of the preamp, it's going to be a more balanced, clean sound. So with less preamp here, I like to leave that preamp pretty cranked. Now, level is the overall output level of the drive. Over here, we have a bass frequency control, which I like to leave about 10 o'clock. As far as this amp goes, it already is a little bit bassy, so I don't need much bass, but you can boost the bass if you want to. This is the mid frequency control, which I tend to push because I love mid-range, and a guitar is a mid-range happy instrument, and you do well to abide by that truth. And then right here in the middle is a cool feature. It is a blend between a clean signal and the distorted signal. So all the way to the left is going to be mostly clean. Blending in, let's see, halfway. And then obviously all of the distortion. The last thing I'll mention about this, we have the boost on. I pretty much leave this on. I just love the combination here. You can take that off if you want to have this on for a rhythm sound, and then you boost it for a lead thing. One thing to note, if you want to turn the preamp off, you have to make sure the boost is off. So that is off. So you can turn on the preamp with that knob, or if the boost is on, even if this switch is off, the preamp is still engaged. Keep that in mind. Overall, if I can use this pedal, then you can, because I'm not that smart. Make sure to check out the Michelangelo Overdrive Plus if you're in the market for a versatile pedal that can offer a variety of different overdrive sounds in one delightful box. Until next time, keep shredding.